Today, Syria is marking 1 year since the collapse of the Assad regime, a dynastic rule that survived 5 decades, including uprisings and civil wars, fell in just a matter of days. A lightning assault by fighters late last year resulted in the takeover of the capital, Damascus. It surprised everyone, including the fighters themselves. The collapse brought relief to many Syrians, the first they had felt in many years, since Bashar al-Assad's father, Hafez al-Assad, seized power in 1971. In 2011, anti-government protests swept across the country during the Arab Spring. Syrian forces launched a brutal crackdown and the uprising escalated into a full-scale civil war. For more than a decade, the Assad regime committed atrocities, erasing entire neighborhoods with barrel bombs and deploying chemical weapons against civilians. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed. Around 100,000 others went missing. Many of Assad's opponents were locked up in prisons like Zeina. When inmates were freed, many emerged dazed, unaware Syria had entered uncharted territory. At the forefront is this man, Ahmed al-Sharaa, a former al-Qaeda-linked commander, now Syria's president. Once on the US most wanted list with a $10 million bounty, he's now visiting leaders around the world, including the White House. We have a team of correspondents covering the story for us. Rasul Sada will be in Damascus, Asad Beg in Aleppo, but Zeina Khodr is in Beirut. She was the first international journalist to enter Damascus as the capital fell. This was her journey on this day last year.
We just passed the Lebanese checkpoint at the main border crossing, the Maslam border crossing. We're heading now to the Syrian checkpoint. We understand that it's no longer in the hands of the regime and that the opposition is now in control. Wait a minute, let me go down. They're taking down the poster. And this is the Syrian government checkpoint. They're raising the flag. There are people returning to their homes. We are entering a new Syria. This is a very, very new Syria. What lies ahead, it's still uncertain, but people are rejoicing. People are celebrating. We are in the center of Damascus. I'm wearing this helmet. Gunfire, celebratory gunfire. Let me tell you where we are. This is the Umayyad Square. This is the center of the Syrian capital. And this is the Syrian state TV and radio, which is now under the control of the opposition.
وإسقاط الطاغية بشار الأسد.
We're now inside the studios of Syria State Television. As you can see, the Syrian opposition flag, the new flag of Syria. A short while ago, this is from where the rebels made the announcement that Syria is now no longer under the control of Bashar al-Assad's regime.
Well, Zeina Khodr is live for us in the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Zeina, the offensive, as I said there, took everyone by surprise. I'm sure it did to you. How did it all unfold?
Well, it was back in March 2011 when we were forced to leave Damascus after covering the initial protests, the start of the uprising. And back then we all thought, are we ever going to return? And then the years passed. The front lines didn't change. The regime clawed back territory. They held on to power. But it was until the regime's defenses that started to fall in Aleppo where it was really a turning point. And then days later, in the early hours of December 8, we heard that Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, fled the capital as rebels were closing in. No doubt there was a lot of disbelief. We wanted to reach Damascus. I called a friend of ours who was an opposition activist to meet us at the border because we really did not know what we were going to expect. Are some remnants of the regime putting up resistance? So it was a 30 to 40 minute drive to the center of Umayyad Square where we saw saw, celebrations. People were celebrating rebels who reached the capital. A lot of them were from the south of the country. But while there was so much noise there was also silence in Damascus. People were in their homes. People were afraid. They were really uncertain of what was next. We couldn't even find a shop to buy a bottle of water. Everything was closed. So, all these people were told for years and years by the Assad regime that the other side, those who lived on the other side of the front line, were terrorists. So there was this sense of insecurity as well. We wanted to broadcast these images to the world, but we were facing a lot of issues with communications. The rebels helped us find an engineer who worked at Syrian state television, and we used the equipment of Syrian state television to broadcast these images to the world, really history unfolding. The same television station that was propagating the regime's narrative for many, many years. So we managed to show the world there was a new Syria, there was excitement, no doubt, but at the same time, there was a lot of apprehension. People also were afraid of what was to come.
And Zeina, it's really worth highlighting to our audience that Syria's problems stem all the way back, don't they, to the Arab Spring, if not even before. How did it end up taking 13 years for the regime to fall?
Well, back in 2011, we were in Daraa when people took to the streets. It was almost unthinkable. This was a repressive regime where dissent was not tolerated. People couldn't even whisper the word Assad, regime, freedom, democracy. And we saw the people take to the streets. They put their lives at stake. Dozens were killed because the regime's response was harsh. Back then, it was a political divide. It was people who wanted change, freedom, democracy, equality, dignity. It was later, as the war progressed, that it took on a sectarian nature. Back then, I remember people were telling me in Daraa, why should we have to live differently than others? There are those who benefit from the regime and those who did not benefit from the regime, the wealthy few and the majority poor. So you had this class divide, this political divide, which took on a sectarian character in the later years. And today, a year after the fall of the regime, sectarian issues, sectarian tensions, that is what is one of the biggest challenges facing the new authorities in Damascus. The new authorities now have to make sure that every Syrian feels equal in their country.
Okay, many thanks for that. Zeina Khodr there for us in Beirut.
Don't miss out and get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.